In 1893, Anagarika was invited to the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago. He was to represent what they at that time called Southern Buddhism. That was the name given to Theravada Buddhism. Dharampala gave a memorable speech at this World Parliament of Religions. And this word spread all over the world, and even the American newspaper, St. Louis Observer of Missouri, stated like this: with black curly locks thrown from his broad brow, his clean, clear eyes fixed upon the audience, his long brown fingers emphasizing the utterances of his vibrant voice, he looked the very image of propagandist, and one trembled to know that such a figure stood at the head of the movement to consolidate all the disciples of Buddha and to spread the light of Asia throughout the world. Now this became a very important thing because, of course, today there are hundreds of Theravada temples belonging to Sri Lanka, Thailand, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Cambodia, Vietnam. But at that time, there wasn't a single Theravada Buddhist in the US. So the greatest thing he did that time was to introduce Theravada Buddhism to America. And it is very appropriate that his statue here is unveiled in the United States and alongside the statue of Colonel Olcott, because these two great pioneering heroes were responsible for the revival of Buddhism in Sri Lanka and India and the development of education. On his return, he stopped in Hawaii, where he met Mary Foster. She was so impressed with him that at that time she donated 1 million rupees to Dharampala for his Buddhist activities. Later, she continued to be a benefactress and donated so much of money to Dharampala for various activities. Now, for instance, she donated money for a free dispensary in Colombo on Mary Foster Lane, a lane named after Mary Foster, for a free dispensary. Then later, she gave money to establish what was called Foster House in Ealing in London, which later in 1926 became the London Buddhist Vihara. Now that was the first Buddhist Vihara established outside Asia. And Dharampala was also the first Buddhist leader to teach Buddhism in 3 continents: Asia, Europe, and North America. In 1931, Dharampala received ordination and took the name Sri Devamitra Dharmapala. The following year, 1932, was the most memorable year in his career. At a second anniversary celebration of the Vihara in Isipatana, there was a very distinguished gathering, including Jawaharlal Nehru, Mrs. Nehru, daughter Indira Gandhi, and his sister Vijayalakshmi Pandit. Now to this meeting in 1932, the old warrior was wheeled in an invalid chair. First, the most memorable thing happened. Director General of Archaeology of the Government of India donated to him a golden casket containing sacred relics of the Buddha. This was so important because after so many centuries, the first time that the sacred relics of the Buddha were given to a Sri Lankan. At this meeting, he recalled what happened when he first visited Isipatana. He said, "This is the place where Buddha preached the first sermon. This is the place where, that is Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. This is the place where Buddha spent the first Vassana season. And it is such a sacred, holy place. But when he visited in 1891, except for a small area where there was a Jain shrine, the rest of the Isipatana land had been used for breeding of pigs. And this is what he said. After 800 years, the Buddhists have returned to their own holy Isipatana in Varanasi. It is the wish of the Mahabodhi Society to give to the people of India without distinction of caste and creed the compassionate doctrine of Samma Sambuddha. I trust that all of you would come forward to disseminate the Arya Dharma of the Tathagata throughout India." One of the first schools that was provided there was funded by Anagarika Dharmapala's mother, 85-year-old Mallika Hevavita. And there was another school funded by Mary Foster. Today, there are 8 schools funded and managed by the Mahabodhi Society. In 1933 January, Venerable Dhanapal received higher ordination. And few months later, he passed away. And his last words were, "I wish to be reborn 25 times to spread the Dhamma of the Tathagata." I understand that Nayaka priest will be distributing a small leaflet about Anagarika Dharmapala. And I hope all of you will read it and also pass it on to the younger generation, because generally Sri Lankans do not know the contribution made by Dharmapala. Of course, as here in the US, you have a Kennedy Boulevard in every major city. In Sri Lanka, in every major town and city, there's a Dharmapala Mavata. But people do not know how much, except of course, people who have gone on pilgrimage to India. And you will realize how much he has done for the revival and the restoration of the Buddha places of worship. Now, to sum up, I like to emphasize some of the main things which is significant on this occasion. The significance of what Siddharatana Nayaka Thero, with the assistance of Anura Perera and his other family members and Shanta Atalage, have done. First, installing the statue of Anagarika Dharmapala alongside the statue of Alcott, because these two great pioneers were responsible for the revival of Buddhism and the development of education. Secondly, this year is the 130th year of the formation of BTS, which is responsible for so many schools in the country. This is the 120th year after Dhanapala filed action to take control of Buddha Gaya. And it is the 80th anniversary of Anagarika Dhanapala receiving the sacred relics of the Buddha. Thank you very much for your attention. Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam. May you all be well and happy.
Thank you, Mr. Percy Nanakara. බොහොම ස්තුතියි අපේ Percy Nanakara මහත්මයාට මේ උදාරකාරයේදී ධර්මපාලතුමා කවුද අපි එතුමාට කරන සත්කාරය මොකක්ද කියන එක පැහැදිලි කිරීම පිළිබඳව අරහං සම්මා සම්බුද්ධෝ විද්‍යාචරණ සම්පන්නෝ සුගතෝ ලෝකවිදු අනුත්තරෝ පුරිස ධම්ම සාරති සත්තා දේව මනුස්සානං බුද්ධෝ භගවාති ස්වාක්ඛාතෝ භගවතා ධම්මෝ සම්දිට්ඨිකෝ අකාලිකෝ ඒහි පස්සිකෝ ඕපනායිකෝ පච්චත්තං වේදිතබ්බෝ විඤ්ඤෝහිති සුපටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ උජ්ජුපටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ ශාවක සංඝෝ ඥායපටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ ශාවක සංඝෝ සාමීචිපටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ ශාවක සංඝෝ යදිදං චත්තාරි පුරිස යුගානි අට්ඨ පුරිස ඒස භගවතෝ ශාවක සංඝෝ ආහුනේයෝ පාහුනේයෝ දක්ඛිනේයෝ අංජලි කරණීයෝ අනුත්තරං පුඤ්ඤක්ඛෙත්තං ලෝකස්සාති තේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන දුක්ඛා භයාරෝගා උප සමින්තු තේ සබ්බීතියෝ විවජ්ජන්තු සබ්බ රෝගෝ විනාස්සතු මාතේ භවත්වන්තරායෝ සුඛී දීඝායුකෝ භව භවතු සබ්බ මංගලං රක්ඛන්තු සබ්බ දේවතා සබ්බ බුද්ධානුභාවේන සදා සොත්ති භවන්තු තේ භවතු සබ්බ මංගලං රක්ඛන්තු සබ්බ දේවතා සබ්බ ධම්මානුභාවේන සදා සොත්ති භවන්තු තේ භවතු සබ්බ මංගලං රක්ඛන්තු සබ්බ දේවතා සබ්බ සංඝානුභාවේන සදා සොත්ති භවන්තු තේ